Hello, welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show live stream and podcast. My name is Rich Natoli. I'm the host of the show, and tonight we have regular co-host Ed Gobo, owner of Captain Hank's Tackle. Ed, how you doing?
I'm tired. It was a long day.
It's a loaded question. I already knew how he was doing.
Very loaded.
Yeah, it was a day on the water for me and Ed was kind of a trooper because he had an idea of what he wanted to do, and I had some video stuff that I wanted to do, so it wasn't really supposed to be a true fishing day for me. It was just a get video content day, which, by the way, absolutely failed, as my underwater cameras just absolutely failed today. So the entire trip from that standpoint for me was a waste. The sheepshead fishing was a waste. I got some fluke. I actually pulled a second slot that came out of the deck. I pulled a Mike Warner and had it flop back into the water. It was literally on the bottom deck of the kayak, and it got airborne and it went over. So that was my second set of fish tacos was gone. Ed, how was your day?
I caught a short tog and a tiniest sea bass I ever saw.
Yeah.
Nothing as far as what I was targeting, but I got the new boat out, the Big Water. So I got some time on that and broke that in a little bit. And I mean, it was a learning day. Seems like I have more of those than I care to admit, but
yeah, well, we're going to be switching it up. Going to different spots coming up. At least I am. I'm going to be going to different spots, and I'm going to be moving up north a little bit more. Again, the only reason that we went to where we went today was to get the video, and it didn't work. So I couldn't believe it. I just put my head down on the table after this long day, and the video didn't come out. And then did a little scouting around in the backwaters for redfish and areas that might hold them later in the season. I think I found a couple. Also caught a couple of short fluke in about 2.5 feet of water, which was fun. I felt like I was fishing Pamlico Sound again. So that was my day. It wasn't the most productive day, but it was nice to get out on the water. And we need to talk to Chris Matusin, because he is all anti-weather man, just like me. The wind was not 5 to 7 today. It was howling out of the northeast down in Cape May County, and that made the second half of the day ridiculously terrible. With that wind against tide, it was brutal. So again, I know, Ed, you like to defend the weather people. I'm not going to do it.
No, they were wrong today. I do have to step out for a second, though.
So yeah, go take care of your dogs.
I don't know how he got out.
In the meantime, let me just add this up into this stream. Want to thank people. We're doing the giveaway for the hat through the end of August for reviews on the podcast, and we picked up a few more this week. Those are not the ones that are up on the screen, but want to read them out anyway. We got one from C. Gresco. Great show. Love the show. Rich, Ed, and John do an amazing job giving some local knowledge and useful advice. I listen every week and appreciate all the time you guys put into the show. And then from Huff Hollow, from Bill, like a private lesson, every podcast like a private lesson on how to catch fish. Since following these podcasts, I've definitely become a better fisherman. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. So thank you to both of you. You're both entered in to the giveaway. We're probably going to add some stuff into the giveaway as well before the end of August. So, and then I just got an email from another person where we'll be going through their review next week. So thank you to everybody. The podcast continues to get traction and grow every week, and that's just awesome. So thank you to everybody. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Say hello to the people in the chat. We got Joe Billups, James Flynn, John Hutchinson, Mike Mara, who we saw on the water today, and he outfished us with his 21-inch fluke, and he just had to text it to us.
At least Captain Hanks had a good day.
Yes, Captain Hanks had a good day. Yeah, and Heaven and L, Don Mace are also in there. Yeah, it was a good day for your jigs. I mean, that's what I was using, and I think I caught maybe a dozen flounder total. and some sea bass. The one, I just want to mention this. I did kill a sea bass, a short today. It was about 6 inches long, and I killed it on the hook set. So I feel bad about that, but it was weird. It just came up dead. It was hooked right through one side, through the gills, and out the other side of the head. So those are sharp hooks that you have there, Ed. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been told otherwise, but it seems that everybody else has good luck with them. So
I definitely do. So again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going to jump right in, and we have on the show tonight a guy that I've been following. I think a lot of you follow, Captain Scotty Sevins. Captain, welcome to the stream. Good to have you here.
Thanks, guys. How you doing tonight?
Man,
doing well.
I've been looking forward to this, man.
Yeah, I was really excited when you asked me. I haven't really made my rounds on too many podcasts, so I think maybe this is like my second one that I've done, and I'm pretty pumped about it.
Yeah. So you did the other one. What, that was last summer, right?
Yeah, Tide Chasers last summer.
Yeah, Tide Chasers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you that's a good segue right into this. You've started your Captain Scotty Sevins now. You're not just Scotty anymore.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How's it going?
Got my captain's license back in 2019.
Yeah.
I took all of 2019 and all of 2020 season, and my whole season those 2 seasons were dedicated to as if I was guiding. So everything I did, I did with that in my mind and that intention. It made me fish different, look at things different. It just changed my whole outlook. And then with 2021, I got my new boat, and it was really a lifelong dream for me to start guiding. And so I started that last year. It's been going really well.
Yeah, I want to get out with you, and actually I have my excuse to do it. And I have for those that are not aware, you are a cover person now. You're a cover boy.
Oh yeah. Yep. Cover model.
You're a cover model, and it's on the mag. You know, everyone might look at like, well, would it be awesome to be on this magazine or that magazine? It's the Fisherman magazine, which to me, and I think you're the same way.
Yeah.
When you grow up and you are just looking at that magazine every single week when it comes out, and like I used to run to Wawa and I would go pick up the copy and just sit there and stare at it every time I couldn't get out on the boat and go fishing.
Yep, it was the same thing for me growing up. My dad coming home from work. Oh, did the fisherman come today? Did the fisherman come today? This week, because at one point it was a weekly publication, I believe.
Yep.
And I don't know if it still is or not, but yeah, I literally grew up reading this magazine, and to be on the cover was it was probably one of my greatest honors of my fishing career. It really was. I had actually gotten a cover shot back in 2018. I was on but it wasn't me personally on the cover. It was an Albie shot. It was an awesome picture, and I was excited about that. But this was something different. This was on a different level entirely.
Yeah, that I saw the picture. I was like, oh man, that is just. First of all, there's a reason why. Well, first of all, you catch a lot of great fish, but you take a lot of awesome pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone that follows you on Instagram knows, like, what you're doing. That is something that I am terrible at. If I get a good picture, it's luck.
Yeah, it's something I struggled with. So just a little bit of a backstory, and so basically what happened, and a lot of it changed my whole outlook on everything. But I lost my brother back in 2011, and I realized at one point I have seen all the pictures that I was ever going to see of my brother, and so basically it changed me, and I realized that all you have left in the end is photos and memories. Right. So I have like a real sentimental attachment to photos, just photos in general, because there's going to be a time, and it may be 20 years from now, it may be 5 years from now, you never know, that I'm not going to be able to be on the water anymore or as much as I would like to. And I want to be able to look back and have those memories. You know,
Right.
video is awesome, but there's something timeless about photos to me anyway.
I
So
agree. I agree.
Totally. Was that the cover photo? Was that one that you took? Because I know a lot of your
yeah,
stuff is
yeah,
self.
everything, and it's something I struggled with for the longest time, and and I guess so. I gave you the reason why I am sentimentally attached to pictures, but then the other part was, if if you caught it and you don't have a picture of it, did it really happen?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, oh my God, I need pictures of this stuff. So it's something I probably struggled with it for probably 4 or 5 years before I really started dialing it in and figuring it out. Because solo self photography, when you're in a time crunch of trying to get a fish back in the water and not kill a fish, it's one of the hardest things you could ever do. And
Yeah.
then you throw in nighttime to that, and that's a totally different animal altogether, trying to get a DSLR to focus and everything else.
Right.
But yeah, it became one of my greatest passions. And I always tried to, I really tried to approach it. So I always tried to be different with everything I did and march to the beat of my own drum. And I always wanted to get shots that other people weren't doing or weren't getting. And there's a lot of great photographers out there. Bill Laconey, he's one of my like mentors when it comes to fishing. I don't know if you guys know him. There's another one, the Angler's Lens on Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, if you guys aren't following them, give those two guys a follow. I mean, they to me like they are two of some of the best fishing photographers that I know of. Anyway, there's a lot of great guys out there shooting for magazines, but I like the guys that are a little bit lesser known. You know.
Right. Well, it's all
Uh,
about doing something a little bit different. You know,
yep.
actually we have Joe from 609 Fishing here tonight watching, and
Oh,
I
you know
actually
what's
look at
funny?
him.
Thanks for letting me know his name. I've been talking to 609 for quite a few years now, and I only know him as 609. So
Yeah.
now I guess the secret's out, and now I guess he knows that I wasn't exactly sure of his real name. So
Yeah.
what's up, Joe?
Yeah, it's Joe. But
Threw my
I
aunt's
look at
up
him.
under the bus.
I look at him on Instagram, and he made famous the slow motion dropping of the fish back into the water.
Yeah, in the
And I
reverse.
told him, I was like, I
Absolutely.
wish I had thought of that. I
Yep,
wish I had thought of that.
and I think I ripped that a couple times on my TikTok actually.
Yeah. Well,
So,
thanks, Joe.
yeah.
We're all going to take it.
No,
Um,
him and I had always talked about doing like a collab, like a Saltmarsh Sunday / YouTube collab. I would really love to get into the YouTube game. Um, and I just talked to him about doing that. So it's something that I would really like to make happen.
that would
But
be awesome. I've watched some of those. Are you still doing this? I haven't seen a new one
so
in a
here's the
while.
thing. I kind of stepped back this year a little bit from doing them. I did one last night. I did like a shark fishing Saltmarsh Sunday, um, but it's something that I'm missing. So I really want to bring it back. But
I enjoyed
sometimes,
watching them.
yeah, they were my family does like. Just a lot of people do it, and it is probably one of the biggest questions I get asked about. Are you still doing? When are you going to do them? Do you do charters for Saltmarsh Sunday? Like, so yeah, it's something that I need. I would really love to bring it to the world of YouTube because you can only do so much with an Instagram story.
Right.
So
Well, why not? So, what's your YouTube channel name?
just everything for me is Scotty Sevins across the board.
Okay. So
So, and
guys,
you'll the logo, the thumbnail that you used on for this live stream, that will be the photo for everything across the board. So
We're gonna have to talk about that because I was surprised
awesome.
to see your logo with that fish.
Oh,
I
yeah.
Because I know you as the striped bass guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know that's probably not even your favorite fish to catch, but
What,
um
sheeps?
well, no,
Sheeps
I
or
mean the
bass?
striped bass.
Yeah.
I thought you preferred tog, right?
Um, so I love Tog, but I mean, basically, I got into I got into togging because back when I sort of got into togging, there was not my friend Jerry is the one that like really got me into it, and it was one of the most addictive fisheries that I think that I've ever encountered. It was like an instant love. Um, and then it just moved on from there. But sheeps are definitely my favorite. I would say of everything. I'll say this: anything with you give me a crab and a jig, and I'll do it all day long. I really will. If I have a choice of one fishing to do for the rest of my life, it would be a crab and a jig. That's why I would love to move to some place where like the Carolinas, when you can catch more than just the, a couple species with a
Right.
crab and a jig, because I don't think I would do anything else.
Well,
That and live lining, those are my two favorite things.
have you ever targeted flounder with a crab?
I've caught them as a bycatch on
Yeah.
crab, but I've never targeted them. But I've never cut open a flounder that didn't have crabs in it. Calico crabs mainly.
Yeah, if I could
So
just get calico crabs to use as
that's
bait.
Yeah,
that's the
how do you even
problem.
catch
Yeah.
some things?
Well, they're the
Uh,
ones they're the most vicious crabs in the world. They're the
they
ones that
are.
attack you at the beach.
Yep. And I mainly find calicos when I'm digging for sand fleas.
Hmm.
And if you drop one or two in the bucket, they'll eat all the sand fleas.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they're small. They're maybe only like
Yeah, they're
about
little.
that big. Yeah,
They're the
but
nastiest crabs that there are. I mean, they like fiddler crabs can get a little ornery, but
yeah,
man, nothing. Those things will cut you. They'll.
they really are, and they've got those needle pinchers too.
Yes. Yeah, they're the ones that
So
get you when you're in the surf and you're playing around and diving through the waves. When you
yeah,
get bit, it's most likely a calico.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, if like when I have a choice to dig crabs, I have to go with whatever I can get the most of. So, and digging crabs, you really only have like a one specific window really to be, the most successful. So, I usually have to go with the sure thing and don't have time. But I agree. I would really love to get that. I've had bass with calicos in their stomach, like lots of them loaded with
Yep.
calicos.
Yeah. So you're talking about you need to move to North Carolina where you're going to get redfish and
Absolutely. Redfish.
yeah.
Have you ever been obsessed with a fish that you have never even caught yet?
It used to be redfish, and then I caught a
Yeah.
bunch, and I'm absolutely like today. Uh, I went scouting after we went fishing.
Yeah.
Ed went home, and I went out into an area, and all I did was pedal around looking for places that might hold them
Yeah.
when the fall mullet run starts.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. And you probably got more addicted to reds once you caught them, right?
Oh, they are amazing. So sheepshead have an outstanding fight, but
Hmm.
there's nothing like a redfish in
Yeah.
2 feet of water because it's like it is literally like a train. It just
Yep.
goes, and there's nowhere
Yep.
for it to go but sideways across the flat, and
Yep.
it just goes.
Thrashing across the flat. That's incredible. I heard they just bring the violence pretty much.
They do. I mean, they are
Yeah.
just talk about a pissed off fish when you hook it. I mean, it is just a head of steam, and it just goes, and it doesn't just go in one direction. I mean, it'll turn, it'll cut back and forth. I mean, your line is just slicing through that water.
Yeah.
It is a hell of a feeling.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I'm sure.
so much so that I'm spending my time just knowing that they're not going to be. I told Ed, I'm like, I'm not going to catch anything, but I'm going to go looking for places where they might hold up later. And
No doubt. So back, I want to say, I forget when it was. Maybe it was June or late May. I was fishing with my fiance, and we had crystal clear water, and a pair of NJ Reds followed her jig right to the surface, right to the boat. And I absolutely lost my mind. I was
Yeah.
slapping her on the back on the shoulder. That was a redfish. That was two of them.
Yeah.
I lost my whole damn entire mind. Like I hate to say that, like after a while you sort of get jaded, but fishing kind of doesn't always bring you the same excitement. And that situation was like one of the like I lost it. I completely lost it
Yeah.
when they came up. But yeah. Oh, you know it's funny. Not a whole lot of time after that, there was also a redfish caught in my area, so it made total sense.
Yeah. They're around.
They're
I
definitely
I've
around.
There is,
yeah, I've seen them near where I was scouting around this afternoon.
yeah,
Had
yeah.
one roll.
Usually, like you said, the mullet run. If
Yes.
you're gonna find them, it happens. Looks like my dog wants to come on camera.
Oh, welcome.
Welcome. Say
Dogs are
hello.
always welcome.
Yeah,
Mine
yeah.
broke out of the
She's just
house.
kind of on my lap all the time.
Yeah,
So,
mine would be all over, but she's not allowed out here.
really?
She'll eat too much stuff out. I'm out in like the garage area. She'll
Oh,
she'll
cool.
just
I
eat
was going to
everything.
say, you guys have like these really cool like backgrounds and things set up. I'm looking at my camera here, the face and it's all fuzzy and terrible quality. I got to get myself like a actual setup for doing stuff like this.
Yeah, I literally am in a terrible garage that is totally unorganized, with the exception of the flag behind me. That's
Uh-huh.
literally
Hey,
everything, and the
yep.
mahi on the wall on the other side. But I'm looking at that. That's not on
Yeah,
camera.
it's just like nobody can tell,
Right.
so it looks good. Like
Yeah.
no one can tell I'm just wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
My shop actually got cleaned and organized this week. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yours is an actual work. I mean, you actually work there.
Well, yeah, but
I don't work here.
it was kind of gross.
I just throw stuff in here that doesn't fit in the trash on trash day, waiting for
Mhm.
the next one. That's pretty
Yeah.
much what my entire garage is. I have like 4 huge things that need to try to get in the one trash can that we're allowed to use.
That's sort of the way my garage is in OC. It's an absolute nightmare. I really need to organize that. Like I just got my rods leaned up against everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that like if they would be horrified if they saw how I keep my fishing rods.
Listen, I just got a rod rack last year and I trash picked it. Okay.
Did you? Yeah.
That's the way to do it, man.
Yep. Exactly.
You get a
And
Stone
that's what I
Harbor
need
and
to do.
Avalon.
I got to get a couple rod racks. I really
Actually,
do.
I think we were on the way to soccer practice. I saw it on the side of the road. I stopped the car in the middle of the street and got out. My wife thought I was crazy.
Yeah,
Really?
the pro tip is find out when they do the bulk pickup in Avalon and Stone Harbor before the season,
Oh, good call.
because you have absolute true story. Back when we had our house in Stone Harbor, my dad used to just drive around and look what was out there.
Hmm.
Guy got a new boat, and he decided that he had to get rid of all of his rods and reels because they didn't match the color of his new boat. So he and his buddy were picking up $1,000 setups that were
That's
just
awesome.
sitting in the bulk pickup. So they just picked
Yeah,
them up
I
and
don't get
sold them.
lucky like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
it
unbelievable.
really
I mean,
is.
they were Penn Internationals.
And
They didn't
harbor
want,
money. That's
yeah,
why.
they didn't want gold reels because it didn't match the new blue boat.
Right. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So all those Penn
Gold's a little
Internationals.
dated now anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So you started out, if I recall, yours kind of similar to me. You started out offshore fishing was really what you did, and then you're now strictly, and I shouldn't say strictly, but predominantly I mean, that's what your business is
Yeah.
backwaters.
So basically, yeah, I've basically been on the water my entire life. Like I was born on Memorial Day weekend. At a week or two later, I was on the beach in Ocean City. I grew up around it. My dad and grandpa had me mako fishing when I was 3 years old.
That's awesome.
Believe it or not. Yeah. The story's like crazy. I think I told it on Tide Chasers, and that started my fishing absolute obsession and my obsession with sharks. And because they hooked about, I don't even know, like a 10 or I don't believe that it was 12, but it was probably a 10-foot mako, and
Yeah.
it was just mind blowing. And I was bit from that second completely. And then what happened was, boats got bigger and big. They downsized for a while, and then boats got bigger and bigger and bigger again. And I probably spent like better part of about 18 years, like fishing offshore seriously. Then my brother had passed away. Offshore just wasn't the same anymore. So then
You fished with him offshore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were the three musketeers, my dad, my brother, and I, and it just wasn't the same. And offshore is a lot of work, and I took a few years off. Kind of was in a bit of a dark place. Started coming out of that place, and I was like, I hopped on my boat and I never looked back. Hopped on my little boat, I should say, and never looked back. It wasn't even a fishing boat, but I made it work for what I needed to do. I turned it into a sport fishing boat. So
well, and now you got the fishing boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is actually, if you see my boat, you would say that is weird looking, but I got this boat and this layout for a very specific reason, because my deck boat while it was not a fishing boat, it had two important elements. Number one, it was extremely wide for its size. So it was 8.5 foot wide for a 19-foot boat.
Wow.
It was a tri-hull design. So it was wide, flat, rode like crap, but it was the most stable fishing vessel that you could ever want to be on. Like, I could have 4 people on that and the boat wouldn't even shift side to side. So the boat that I got now is a hybrid of that. So it's half a deck boat, half a bay boat. And the other important thing about deck boats and my boat is it stays wide all the way up to the bow. So I have a bow platform that I can fit 3 people up there. I could fish me controlling the trolling motor and a person on either side of me for sheepshead. And most boats you can't do that with, because they have the pointed bow, and you're lucky if you can get 1 person up there. You're definitely not getting 2. You're reaching around your buddy. So it was like I got it for a very specific reason, and it fish is awesome, but every boat's a compromise, so it doesn't ride all that great, but not as bad as my old boat, but it definitely works.
Yeah, I mean, how smart is that? I mean, you look out there and you see, one of the difficult things, especially for sheepshead, is when you're with in a boat, you always see the captain with his hand over top of the guy's shoulder or underneath, trying to hold on to a piling, or just keep the distance off of the pilings or the concrete, and the other guy in the charter is sitting in the back because there's no room, and he's holding the net. And he's standing there holding the net for half an hour, just waiting for something to hit. And that's awesome. That I didn't even think about that. That is a great move on your part.
Yeah. So if you see the side from the side, my boat looks good. But if you look at it from the front, you're like, what? That's just kind of weird. But it's very functional. And as far as flats fishing goes, it's awesome. Like, you can have 2 people picking apart a section of marsh, cast them right next to each other, and have no problems. And you're raised, so you get a better vantage point. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way my boat fishes.
That's awesome.
Sounds like we're fishing on Scotty's boat.
Well,
Let's do it.
I actually would like to get a charter sometime. Actually,
Mhm.
you know what? I got to come down because I actually saved my copy of the Fisherman for you.
Oh, awesome.
I just kept thinking if that were me, I would want to get as many of those as possible. So
I
I didn't
really
even open it.
appreciate it. It was very thoughtful.
Yeah.
I actually ended up getting, who would have thought, Wawa carries the Fisherman
Yeah.
magazine, and I was able to secure 10 copies.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah, that's
that's
where
awesome.
growing up, I used to do that
Yep.
down in Stone Harbor. I get on a bike and I go from 114th Street down to 95th Street to the
So
Wawa to pick it up.
were basically in Stone Harbor your whole life then, huh?
Well, for the summers, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome. That's really
yeah.
awesome.
So it's a similar fishery to the Ocean City, Atlantic City,
Mhm.
and then once you get north of that, then it kind of changes into a
All
whole different.
changes.
There's
Everything
no more
changes.
marshes, or the
Uh-uh.
marshes aren't the same. You
No,
know,
no, but I will say this, the fishing gets better the further you go up north. The central and northern guys, they don't know the South Jersey grind.
but you know what? It used to not be that way. Back when I
No,
was little, it was everyone was going to Cape May. We're heading out, offshore, and you're seeing
yep,
all the boats coming down from north of Atlantic City, just hauling it for 4 hours to get
yeah,
down and fish what we were getting out to in an hour.
yep.
And now it's all north. And
Yeah,
now,
it really is. Even like the backwater fishery, it's just like we don't have a flounder fishery like they do up north. We may get lucky, and you might get a handful of decent days where the bass come in close enough down here in the fall where you can actually get a legitimate shot of them. There's nothing down here that will hold the bass and keep them here for long periods of time
right.
like there is up north. I call it the the armpit in New Jersey, where we are where the state indents the furthest on the
Yes.
coast, and they're you have to get lucky. So
Well, we do have
whatever you can.
there is a very good resident bass population down south
Yes,
though.
yeah,
And it is
absolutely.
and with
We have
those marshes, you can actually fish them all year.
yes. You're absolutely right. That's the one thing we are lucky about is we do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not down talking South Jersey at all because I love it. It's my heart,
Right.
but it's very difficult. But yeah, I will say this: if you learn to catch fish in South Jersey, you'll be able to catch fish anywhere.
Yeah, we were in a fluke tournament. I think it was the Duke of Fluke, and the guys that were, I mean, you see them on Instagram every day. They're limiting out before work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before they go to work, they just
Uh-huh.
jump on the kayaks for a few hours, and they're limiting out every day. And they came down and they're
Yeah.
like, "This is ridiculous. This is so hard down here."
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
on the north guys.
I did a guide for a guy named Freddie back in June. He lives right on the Navasink River, and he literally got 100 bass over 30 pounds this year, and that was by June.
Yeah,
He has them right in his backyard. I mean, it's just they have a world class fluke fishery up there. They call them fluke. I still call them flounder. I guess I'm old school, or it depends on where you're from.
oh,
But
South Jersey
it's
is flounder.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm used to. But yeah, we just don't have that sort of fishery up here. And if I would say this, if there was one fishery that I would love to be able to improve on, it would definitely be flounder. So I truthfully, I don't even really target them
Oh,
ever.
they're so much fun. They're
Yeah,
so much fun because they're
I,
here and they are. It's like a hunt.
I,
You
I,
can
I
predict.
agree with you. I
Yeah.
agree. I wish I wish that I was better at it because I would probably do it more. And my my fiance loves flounder fishing, and it's just a fun thing to do with the family. But the thing of it is Tog sort of became for me what flounder fishing is, I guess, to South Jersey, you know.
Right.
So while everybody was flounder fishing, I was togging, and it didn't matter really the time of the year. I just loved it. because there really wasn't a ton of people doing it, and you can usually go out and put a catch together, And I just, as long as there's a bend in the rod, I'm happy. I don't, size of fish doesn't really matter to me, and as long as it's not skates and baby sea bass, like I'm usually pretty happy with them. So
Yeah, there are a couple.
That's why I do a lot of shark fishing this time of year, just because like when you hit the summer doldrums and things get really tough, that's one thing that you can always count on that's going to be chewing this time of year. So
are you targeting them in the back, or are you going out front?
Sharks, mainly out front. I call it ghetto sharking. I just always called it that because I do it exactly like you would target makos and thresher sharks, except I'm just doing it with little sandbars, spinners, black tips, duskies, that sort of thing. Actually, that's what I did for Saltmarsh Sunday last night. I got a couple Atlantic sharp nose. It was actually, it got dark and you could hear them busting on up bunker schools and jumping around me. It was pretty awesome. I haven't done it a whole lot this last 2 years since I started guiding, but it's something I always forget every year. Like I have to remind myself, stop trying to force the square peg and round hole or whatever that saying is. When stuff gets tough with the other fisheries, just do something different.
Right.
Actually, side note, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice to anybody. But yeah, that's usually what I really love doing this time of the year.
I used to be all about shark fishing, and I mean there was nothing to me like catching a mako and seeing that black eye come up and just look up at you. Oh my God. You get chills when actually that was really my first tattoo. I got my first tattoo after I got my first mako shark. I wasn't allowed. No, I wasn't allowed. So I waited until I was allowed because I was old enough. And I got a mako shark on my back.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. I love tattoos. I got quite a few myself.
Yeah, I only have a few right now so far.
Yeah, we'll you know what?
It gets real expensive real fast.
Covered with full sleeves. It's just the money aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yep. So, and I was in a job where I couldn't necessarily have too many showing. And then I was like, forget it. Now I don't have to worry about that. I can put whatever I want, wherever I want, as long as my wife doesn't shoot me for it. So I've got some plans. I've got some plans for some coming up soon. So shark fishing was
like
awesome.
The whole mentality has sort of changed. Like they're a lot more socially acceptable than what
I think more people have them now than
no doubt.
I mean, my daughter's got tattoos already. She's 20.
Okay.
And it's not a big deal.
No, it really isn't. It's not a big deal at all.
Back in the day, it certainly was, but I don't know. I love them.
Oh, I got a 6 hour. My dad still hates them. I love them too, but he kind of softened.
My dad hated them until he hated the mako shark, and he hated them until I got a on my right arm. I think it's my right arm. Yeah, it is my right arm. On my right arm, I have a compass rose with the coordinates from our old house in Stone Harbor.
Oh, that's awesome.
So right on the dock.
Yeah.
So, because we don't have that property anymore. Yeah. And when he saw it, he's like, what the hell's that? And I was like, those are the coordinates to this spot. He was like, okay, that's pretty cool. He's like, I like that one.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you do.
Funny how that works, right?
Yep.
And it's funny, as much as my dad hates tattoos, his dad was covered. He was a sailor. He was in the Navy back during World War II and the Korean War, and he was absolutely covered. And I guess all the years of his mom beating it into his head that tattoos are bad. They're he kind of hated them, but
I don't care. I'm going to keep getting them.
Absolutely.
And I got to pick a new species to get, because I had the mako. And I used to love shark fishing. I know that you still do it. I didn't realize you still do it, but
Yeah,
once there were all the pressures started coming on the sharks, I actually stopped.
yeah.
But I have an entire tackle box off to my right with all of my shark hooks and gear. And I
Mhm.
was looking at them yesterday. I was looking for some drag grease, and I pulled out the wrong tackle box. And I was like, "Oh my god, look at all this shark
Brings
stuff I
back some
have."
memories, doesn't it?
Oh my god, it is in an old orange tackle box that was my grandfather's.
Okay,
And there are still
I
hooks
love
in
it.
there from when my grandfather was alive back in the 90s, early
Love it.
90s, you
See,
know.
I'm really attached to nostalgia and things like that. I get very nostalgic myself, so I can I can see that's something I would do. I can't get rid of stuff like that. It just brings back such good memories.
Yeah, I've got it here. I have a mahi on my wall. I
Mhm.
didn't catch it. My dad caught it. My dad passed away a
Yeah,
few years ago,
I'm
and
sorry to hear that.
my brother wants it, but I haven't had the chance to give it to him in the past
Yeah,
several years.
yeah,
So here it is
and
sitting
maybe
right
not
in
in
front
here
of
so
me.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
That
cool.
mahi needs to make an appearance on the live stream because you
yeah, it
talk about it
does.
all
We
the
need
time.
to get him a name.
Well, I say it because it's in front of me. It's a pretty big one. He caught it down in Mexico.
Okay,
Which, by the way, Scotty, I was in the Fisherman magazine in one of those weekly roundup picture things
okay.
back in the day for a mahi that I caught when I was 17.
Did you save it?
I did, and then my dad, when he cleaned out the house, threw it all out when he was moving.
No.
I was
He
gonna say
didn't
we need to
I
realize.
see that.
wonder if there's a way to get that.
I don't
If
know.
they have all the
I think it was when
packaging.
I was I was between 17 and 19. But yeah, I always thought it was so cool. We were
That's
offshore,
awesome.
just me and my buddy, and we were running from a thunderstorm. And I mean, it was coming, and we were
Uh-huh.
hauling as fast as we could. It was one of those things where there was no wind ahead of it, but you could
Yeah,
see you could see it was going to get real bad. And we're
gotcha.
just gunning it as fast as we can. We're about 25, 30 miles offshore, and all of a sudden, you see the flying fish and the mahi coming after them.
There's
And
nothing like that.
we stopped just long enough to hook up two of them, and then the lightning starts cracking, and we made the cardinal sin. I pulled mine out after he hooked up, and before I could get another one hooked up, he pulled his out, and they
Okay.
all left. You
Yeah,
know,
that's the thing. People always forget you gotta keep them in the water because if you don't keep them in the water, then the pod just splits.
yep. They won't leave it. They won't leave a buddy, but once the
Yeah.
buddy's gone, they're out of there, and they
Yep.
just took off. And you could see the flying fish take off, and they were going towards the storm. And I was like, dude, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even huge.
It doesn't
It wasn't a
matter.
bull.
They're the one of the most beautiful saltwater fish that swims. They really are.
It's amazing. They're
Colors.
neon colors when they're underwater, but then once you
Yep.
get them out of the water, they turn pale in
Yep.
like
Yep.
2 or 3 minutes.
That is one of like my biggest things. Like dead fish don't take nice pictures. You
No.
know what I mean? And so you really have to get a picture really quick because guess it's the lactic gas or whatever in their system. They drop colors really fast.
Well, Heaven and Elle Outdoors, who's in the chat right now, she
Yeah,
picked up some mahi today, and
Elle's awesome.
they're nice and bright.
Did she?
I
She
think they're little chickens. Nice
that's
size ones.
okay.
Yeah,
I'd take anything, like I said, any
absolutely.
size.
And they got some nice color on them. I think it was today. It looked,
Okay.
if I recall, I've been up since like 4:30 this morning, so God only knows if I'm living in the past or something. But yeah, so let's go back. So let's talk again.
Yeah.
Backwaters. Right now, we are, as you called it, the doldrums of summer. So it's going to get
Yeah.
real difficult to catch bass. Well, the water's not exactly hot. Normally, it gets really tough to pick up the bass right now.
Yeah.
It gets even tougher to revive them after you catch them. So what are you
Absolutely.
looking at right now? Are you fishing for tog right now because it's open, or are you just, is it sheep first? You'll take a tog, or what are you doing?
So basically, I'm an opportunistic fisherman. So um, I'll basically fish for whatever I can get to cooperate that day. So basically, yeah, I'm targeting sheep, but to be quite honest, it really hasn't been all that good lately. You know, like my early season was absolutely mind-blowingly epic. So basically, yeah, going to be targeting sheep's tog. Tog's always a bycatch to sheep's, but
Right.
you can usually always get them to cooperate. No matter really, depending on the tide schedule, you can usually get them to cooperate and bass. So I'm usually sheep tog bass. That's usually what I'm going after
Gotcha.
for the most part. And like I said, I haven't really done any shark guides, but it's something that I probably should do because it's a whole lot of fun. It's it's one of those fisheries that can be really, really addictive. Like nothing is going to give you the fight that they do. Um, you know, so but yeah, that's really my big main focus. Bass like flats fishing for me right now is really, really dead. Bass really becomes a nighttime only deal this time of year. Um, and you know, in all the normal places, bridges, shadow lines, you can really apply the same tactics to the marsh that you do during the day. But running around like in the marsh at nighttime, it can get a little bit sketchy.
Yeah, it gets
Um,
dicey.
yeah, it definitely does. And really, the biggest thing is like we're having to worry about crab pots and things like that because that'll cost you a lower unit really quick. Um,
That's where the kayaks are better. You can
I
run into something and
totally
you're
agree.
okay.
Yeah, and I would actually love. I'm dying to get a Geno. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Uh,
Oh, they're
it's
like the
basic
canoe
the
things, right?
canoe.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
the
like a
canoe. Yeah,
flat
yeah.
stick canoe uh, for stuff like that and something to travel with. But yeah, so I kind of forgot what we were.
That would be awesome. That you should bring that out at night. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and you can travel to Florida, and it's nice to be able to get out of your area. Having a boat in Ocean City really only allows me to fish like a small area. You
Right.
know what I mean? That's why kayaks are awesome because you can just travel and fish wherever you want to, wherever you can get it in the water. Gives you a lot of freedoms.
It does until you get the 13 mile an hour wind in the face
Uh, yeah,
with the current coming at you.
yeah,
It
yeah,
the problem, the kayak is awesome until you need to go somewhere far.
yeah,
And then it becomes
fast and
like,
far.
I mean, there are
And
times where, I mean, like today, we had to have this planned out in advance because we wanted to hit certain tides, be able to take advantage of the tides and the currents and everything. And it was wrong, which just kind of messed up the whole thing. And we couldn't,
yeah,
if we were in a boat, we could have just ran up to two other spots. And
hmm
we would have had the wind pushing us, in a good direction to
yeah,
because you just get above the inlet instead of
hmm
below the inlet. You know what I mean? And we would have been fine. And that just wasn't it just
yeah.
wasn't it just
And
wasn't in the cards.
I totally agree with you. And a lot of times when I'm fishing, like I have such a vast area that I have to cover. I mean, there's sometimes to put a trip together, I have to cover like a 35-mile round trip uh,
Yeah.
to get where I need to go and to put fish in the boat. Like it's that is the one other problem. And also, I'm a little bit lazy. I'm not gonna lie. So,
Well, you have the added pressure though. I mean, you're doing it for, you've got clients when you're out
yeah.
there, and I'm sure that adds a lot more pressure to the
Oh,
entire thing.
whole lot of pressure, a whole lot of pressure. And sometimes like what I'm not able to do a whole lot of anymore is like the scouting and fishing myself. Like that's what Saltmarsh Sunday was always for me. That was
Right.
for me to scout and try new things and you know not just be able to take my time. And because that to me, that's one of the most important things about fishing is doing your scouting and time on water. That is like I can't even stress that enough. I mean, just for so many different reasons. But
It gives it brings you to a different level. You know,
yeah,
if you don't have the time, let's say you're strictly a weekend warrior, so you don't
yep,
have the time to get out on the water, you
I
better do your
totally agree.
prep. You know, you better
Yep.
prepare and you better plan and you better look at navionics charts. You better look at
Google
the
Earth is your best friend.
exactly. But if you have the opportunity to get out there and put the time in on top,
Yep.
well, now things become a whole lot clearer.
That's
And
that's when your whole uh paradigm shifts with
yeah,
fishing. It really
yeah,
does. Like I remember when like I had said, I had told you when I hopped back on my boat after, like I was coming out of some dark times, I spent a season and a half, uh, just on the weekend nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, driving around at sunset time on all tides, um, with my fish finder, seeing where I could get into and where I couldn't get into. Like that's how I learned my area. I didn't have a fish finder. I just had a little digital readout.
yeah.
Um, and that 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 knowledge becomes invaluable. Now, I will say this though, things change every single year. Every single winter, you almost have to relearn substantial portions of your area because things change that much. You get a couple nor'easters in the wintertime. Like I have some areas that are like cut throughs that I use, I mean, almost daily that are almost completely filled in now.
Yep.
So
There,
yeah, it's
yeah,
just
I
that.
have one. I have one that had there are a couple of well-known holes in this
Mhm.
creek. But what people don't know is if you paddle and you can't take a boat back there, you
Yeah.
never could, but if you would paddle your kayak back there and you go for about 30 minutes, which is a long way, but 30 minutes, all of a sudden you get these really deep holes
Hmm.
and there's just enough water coming in that it's fresh, it's aerated, and there I used to just bail fluke back there.
That's
We can't even
awesome.
get there now. They're literally gone.
Yeah.
It's now all sod, and you can only see it from the other side because you can't
Yeah.
get back there, not
I,
even in a
I
kayak.
just it's amazing just the way how the marsh is just and our base systems they're just ever changing. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years, you know.
Yeah, I've been fishing these same, in if I go to the Stone Harbor area, I grew up fishing all those, and when I was little, we take my buddy's boat, and for some reason, our parents thought it was fine for us to take boats out when we were like 10. So we
Yeah.
would get in his little 10-foot whaler, and we would just head back into the marshes. Now this is pre GPS, and he didn't have a fish finder or anything, but we would just go back there and we'd just kind of like use a weight on the line and just see how deep it was as we went back, and we'd
Yeah.
find these awesome holes. There are actually some of them are still there. And I'm not going to name any of these creeks, but I will
Yeah.
say to one person who is in the chat right now that I saw on the water today, and we'll leave it at that, where he caught his fish. He caught a nice keeper size fluke today, was exactly where I used to go back with my buddy Scott and just bail them
That's
out of the
awesome.
hole back in that creek. But the creek on the other side, you can't get into, or not on the other side, a creek within a mile of there. You
Yeah.
can't even get into there anymore. And it was actually better. It used to be better, but this other one is virtually unchanged. I
That's
love it though.
lucky because it's not always like that.
Uh-uh.
And see
No.
that's to add to that, that's why I like the kayak so much, because you are limited. It
Yep.
forces you to learn the spots that you're in. You can't run 30 miles.
No.
You have to make do with what you have.
And you bring up such an amazing point, and it is one of the greatest lessons that I learned. My whole world changed when I started fishing on foot, because it forces you can't just overrun fish and go wherever you want. It forces you to make the best of the of the area that you have and focus on that and figure out how to properly fish it.
Yep.
Whereas if I was on a boat, I would have gotten frustrated and ran away. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Went
And
somewhere else. But I couldn't agree with you more with that. That is like such a, like, I can't stress that point enough.
I mean,
it's go ahead, Ed.
I've found spots that I've fished in boats, but I've found like I've always fished them in a boat, but then I found like little offshoots just to the left or to the right, not anything crazy, but better spots within 5 to 10 feet of places I used to run my boat through all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is so we had on Scotty a guy named Matt from Sunrise Kayak Fishing. And
Okay.
he's the guy who caught that 23-pound tog in his kayak this
Yeah.
April. Yeah, so
April.
yeah.
Was
In
South
14
Jersey?
No, he was up
It was
in Long Island.
Gotcha.
But it was in
Oh my
14
God.
feet of water, by the way. And
So awesome.
he got this thing, but he was talking about the point where, you know, it's a blessing and a curse to be in a kayak because it is kind of similar to being on foot. Now, on foot
Yep.
is you're going to learn the most about the spot because you're going to
Yep.
work it. You're going to work the entire area where you are, and then you're going to move 10 feet and you're going to work it again. So you keep overlapping. But in a kayak, you can't pick up and run a mile.
No.
So his point, and I think what he specifically said was, I'll get this as close as I can remember. The boat will pick up and leave, but the kayaker will look at it and say, well, see that rock over there and that little riffle coming off the side? That's creating a little bit of current right there. I'm going to throw right there. And that's where he starts to pick up his striped bass. You know,
Yep.
the boats are moving on and he's noticing these little movements on the top of the water. He's noticing every little seam because he can't just gun the throttle
No.
and go a mile in a minute and
Yeah.
and set up again. It would take him, you know, what, a half an hour to get that, or 20 minutes to get that mile. So he's sticking
course.
around and he's seeing it through.
Yeah. And you know, it brings up like another point that like I really wanted to talk about, but it's a lot of times one of the biggest, another piece of advice that I really would have to say is one of the most important things like to really keep in mind is like a lot of people like just say for instance you're fishing a bridge at nighttime. People will go up, they don't see bass popping, they make a couple casts, they leave, but they don't take the time to try and figure out what's going on under the surface.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just because you don't see just like the fish busting or popping doesn't mean that the fish aren't there and that they're not feeding. You know what I mean? So
I actually do better. I don't want to throw you off the point, but I just want to point
yeah,
out at night for bass, I actually do better when I don't see them. When you see them
yeah,
in the lights, it's usually not the best thing for you. What you
yeah,
want to do is not see them and hit those shadow lines around the lights, and that's where they're lurking. I mean, they're sitting
yeah,
down there waiting to ambush something that comes through.
absolutely. And that was kind of like that's become like one of my little niche areas is catching bass that are holding deep that you're not seeing. I'll say that my best nights of backwater fishing for bass, um, they were on nights where on the surface everything was dead, um, and underwater it was just
It's mayhem.
incredible, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the one thing I don't do most of your viewers, do they have boats, kayaks, foot fish, or is it
It's
a mix?
literally we have everybody. We have people
Yeah.
on foot,
Yeah.
we have kayaks and boats.
So I mean, a lot of times kayaks these days they will have fish finder on them. If you don't, it's probably one of the most important investments that you could ever make, aside from your platform and a fishing rod. I never when I'm fishing, especially like at night, and even for tog, for anything, I never just stop and start fishing every like anytime. I always take 5 to 10 minutes to scan the entire area with my sounder and side scan before I start fishing, because it'll paint a clearer picture for you with where the fish are sitting, and if there's even anything there worth fishing for.
Right.
Um, and a lot of times, like just for instance, there's sunken structure that may be close to a bridge area or deep channels or things like that. So you might not, like I say, you might not see it on the surface, but below the surface is a totally different ball game. And what I would do is go around, find those areas of structure, see where the fish are oriented, and then you can go down current from them and work those piles of structure that are under the surface. But that is like one of the most important things, really, is like using your electronics to find fish, um, because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. It really does, and you don't always want to waste your time where there where there isn't anything. So, because I know time on water is really precious for everybody. So, you really want to make the most of it. So, it's definitely worth taking those few extra minutes to scan, side scan, and down scan before you start fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time I would say that it's not is if you're flounder fishing, and then you're only
Yeah,
looking at depth.
exactly. That's
You
the
know,
only thing. But you can also locate bait. But flounder, people forget flounder are really structure oriented fish as
yes.
well.
I mean, I
And
use my fish finder constantly for flounder, and I'm looking
yeah,
for the structure. That's what
mhm,
I'm doing. It's
yeah,
I throw on, like today I had side scan on because it wasn't a flounder day, it was a sheepshead day. So I
yeah,
wanted to look around, and because it was sheepshead, it means where we were fishing, very good chance for striped bass. So I
yeah,
wanted to see if there were any, big fish coming by on the sides, and bluefish. There were definitely bluefish in the area. So I wanted to
Mhm.
see where those were. And the big bait schools you can also see on the side scan. If
yeah,
I'm just flounder fishing and that's all I'm going to go after, I use just the regular. I'll use the down, the high chirp, or I'll use the regular at different times. But you're right though. I do not fish for striped bass if I don't have a side scan on. I
yeah,
turn that on every single time. Now it used to not be that way. I used to only do that when I was fishing the migration.
yes.
I was looking for the bunker, but then I
Looking for
realized I'm kind of cheating myself because I can still pick up the bass that are holding next to that sod bank, and I'll see is it on the left side of the creek or the right side of the creek, because it's a big freaking difference. They're not
yeah,
moving from side to side.
yeah, there really is. And honestly, sometimes you can, even with side scan, pick up bass that are sitting on a point in the marsh. So
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it's worth the investment. I would say, aside from getting a platform to fish with, like, your electronics are the one of the most important things that you can get. They
And what are
really
you
are.
running?
So right now I have my Lowrance TI2, which I would
Okay.
really like to upgrade. I'm a big fan of Lowrance and Simrad even too, but more so Lowrance. Garmin, I really don't like Garmin. To me, it's the Android of the boat market, and Simrad and Lowrance are the iPhone. So they're great, and people are gonna I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, we were
I'm
having
not
that.
a Garmin person. Ed likes
No.
Garmin. Um,
Really?
but he wants a Simrad.
I
We were talking about this on the water today. He's going
Yeah.
for Simrad.
Yeah. Do it. Do it.
I'm trying. I just bought a new kayak, so I got to recover a little bit here. So
Yeah,
I've
I
recycled.
understand. It's a lot of money, especially these days.
Oh yeah,
I have a low rants, and
Yep.
I got the hook too with the triple scan, so I have all of it. I The problem that we have on kayaks is you can burn them out if they get submerged. It's
Yeah.
possible.
Hmm.
Even though it's not probable, it
Or
is
if you get dumped.
possible. And if it happens, they're not warranting the thing. So
No.
you got to be careful on the $1,000 units. But I I have the Lowrance. I really like it. There are some things I don't like about it too. It's one that I would still recommend to people, but we were talking about this today. I almost had the Simrad, and the only reason I didn't is because it took them way too long to ship it. Then it didn't show up. And then they said, "We're so sorry. We'll ship it out to you in 45 days."
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, it's May 1st. I'm not waiting
You're
45 days
no,
for a
that's
Simrad when I can get the Lowrance for
yeah,
literally
I
the same
agree.
cost."
And honestly, Lowrance Simrad are the same
It's the
company.
same company, yeah.
Absolutely. Uh, just more Simrad is marketed, I guess, more towards the saltwater
Yes.
uh, group, but what people don't realize is there's a whole lot more options, at least I feel like anyway, with Lowrance, and they're every bit as good. And I believe that they have I don't know. I prefer it over Simrad. I used to be a Simrad guy until I started really getting into Lowrance and what they have to offer. Their fish reveal, do you use that at all?
I got the Hook 2 right before the reveal was released. So
Okay.
that's the
The
newer version of what I
Fishery,
have.
yeah, Fish Reveal is awesome. So all your scan images, it'll overlay your normal sonar onto your scan image. So if you're looking at a scan image and you're not really sure if that's a fish or not, it'll basically your scan image will be like two tone and it overlays that the fish on it. So say if it's black and blue, the fish will actually come up like you're red or yellow or orange on there. It takes all the guesswork out.
Yeah.
But that's on constantly for me. It's really, like I said, one of the most important pieces of equipment that I have is that.
I agree. I tell people it is important to get one.
Yeah.
It's just going to save you so much as long as you use it the right way and it doesn't become video game fishing where you don't
Well,
drop the
that's
line
the
until you
thing.
see something.
Yeah.
Um, but
Because
I mean,
it's easy to get that way. It's you
yeah,
have to look at it as a tool. Like I have a unit up on my bow, and sometimes it can you have to remember that just a fish too. That's all I can
right.
really say because
Yeah,
you can get very 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 distracted with it. Use it as a tool, not as your only means.
right.
So I agree with you.
We
Um,
all fall into that.
mhm.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
there are
so
times you're
easy.
just staring at it and you see an arch and you're like, okay. And then you keep looking back. It's like, what the
You
hell
gotta
am I doing?
figure out how to catch them. Yep.
I actually had to force myself to stop doing that. Um, because again, I was brought up fishing boats, so you don't have the fish finder right in front of you. It's up
No.
in the cockpit and you're in the back or you're on the bow. So, you look at it every once in a while. In a
Yeah.
kayak, it's literally right off to my left and I'm fishing right off to the
You're
left or the
fishing
right.
with it,
Yeah,
absolutely. And, do you turn your fish alarm on?
I do not.
Uh, I I mine is always on because a lot of times I'm up in the bow or doing things, and I I am always listening for those beeps. You know
Well,
what I
but
mean?
I'm on a kayak.
So, yeah, you can sing it
In
all
our
the
boat, it
time.
was always on,
Yeah.
which it gets annoying when you hit a big school.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
it though. It gets me
yeah.
so
You
excited.
hear just a little did
Yep.
it, yeah, it just keeps going and going and going. Yeah, that's when
Yeah.
everyone starts running to the cockpit to see what the hell's going on.
Yeah. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
It's got the same sound or a similar sound to it's not the same, but the similar one to Wicked Tuna.
Yes.
They never catch a tuna unless it shows up on their depth finder, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. But
I
so
I
I
love the
yeah,
advice though about, taking your time when you get to the spot and really scoping it out, driving around and looking because at the end of the day, it'll cost you 5 or 10 minutes, but it could save you 2 hours of fishing when there's nothing there.
it could. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give. And use all your senses too. Like not just seeing what you're seeing, but are you hearing things? Are you smelling bait? Because
That was big
I got a
offshore.
terrible nose, but you can almost always smell bunker. You know
Yes.
what I mean? You can smell bluefish. It's got that licorice smell in the air. Use all your senses and not just like, I'm just gonna make a couple casts and go. And I'm not saying don't fish fast because I'm a very fast fisherman. I don't stay in an area too long. But slow down, take your time to scan. You'll be happy you did, because there has been so many nights where if I'm set up fishing an area, I see boats come in, make the cast in the same place that the last guy did, and just moved on. When they never take the time to understand what's going on under the surface.
Right.
And a lot of times you're going to find your bigger fish that way. Um, I know, I know when it comes to, targeting striped bass in shadow lines and on the surface, uh, versus when I'm deep jigging them, almost all my bigger fish always come from deep jigging. That was the other thing that I wanted to mention too. Like, as for lures, like, I guess if you follow me for any length of time, like, the dart spin is
Yeah.
my go-to grab for. I mean, when that came out, that was, to me, like, I found my perfect lure. To me, it's the lure of the decade. It's the greatest lure that has come out and most versatile lure of the last 10 years. It really is. Um, and when I'm targeting striped bass that are holding deeper, I'm usually using a 5.5 inch dart spin. And my favorite color for nighttime deep jigging would be the wild shiner color. So it's like a really dark, sparkly gold. Um, and I usually love for deep jigging only, is the Z-Man headlocks, jig heads, anywhere from a half ounce to up to an ounce, but mainly half ounce, maybe 3/4 if it's really ripping the current. Um, but that is my go-to grab for bass that are holding deeper. Because a lot of lures, your paddle tails, things like that, on the drop, they don't have a whole lot of action. That
Right.
tail on the dart spin is constantly spinning, constantly moving. You can give it to an amateur, and they can't really work that lure wrong. Um, it's
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 made for me.
always, yeah. It's awesome. It really is, and I just can't say enough good things about it. Some of my other favorite colors for that are I like the see-through gold. Of course, the 5.5 inch pearl with a chartreuse tail.
Yeah.
But that's mainly what I'm using for deep jigging. Now, for flats fishing, I step it down to the 4.5 inch dart spin. Um, and I love the shrimp color, which is like a see-through gold with a chartreuse tail. That's like my number one grab. That color, that gold, even works during the day. There's something about that color that just is incredible. I love the pearl with the chartreuse tail on the 4.5 inch. And what else? Sometimes the chartreuse. I'm not really too big on the chartreuse dart spin,
It's
but
So
yeah.
fun. It's funny you bring up the dart spins, because that's what inspired me to go with to make the switchblade jigs that I have out.
Really?
right.
hmm It was
I
actually seeing you
haven't
post
seen them.
them.
I'd love to check them out.
I'll show you after the stream.
Awesome.
It's and who makes them? Who makes the
A
darts? Is
band
that
of
Still?
anglers. And I am not in any
Bill.
way getting paid by a band of anglers at all. Although I probably turned more people on to the dart spin in Jersey than anybody. But they are just to me, like I said, I just can't say enough good things. Greatest lure that and versatile. It'll work equally well for flounder and freshwater fishing. as it does for striped bass, it's just awesome.
I
So,
have some dart spins somewhere. I didn't realize who made them though.
yeah, yep,
It's
a
been a
band of
while.
anglers. It's kind of a
Okay.
weird name, that a band of anglers. It's not something that really kind of jumps out at you. Oh,
Yeah.
also, I kind of got a little bit off topic, but my second favorite deep jigging lure would definitely be the slab zone. Have you ever heard of slab zone?
I have not.
No.
So they're basically a spin bait, and don't let the look turn you off, because they are a little bit of an odd looking swim bait. So almost like a storm shad ish, but they were like one of the original durable swim baits. They have like a triangle sort of head on them, and they have a rattle inside the body. Um, and it just adds that little bit of click. And there's something about it, like you can catch 30 fish on a slab zone, and it looks like there'd just be a little lip scrapes on it. They're awesome. And the one thing that I love about the slab so much is it always tracks true, no matter what speed that you're retrieving at. Because most, say, like a storm shad, like if you need to speed up a little bit, that thing's like kicking sideways in the water. The tracking is awful on them.
It is.
So yeah, it really is. And slab, he's a guy, Aaron from California, one of the nicest guys that you could ever meet. Really is. I would highly recommend the guys check out Slab Zone. They're on Instagram as that. Give them a shot. Don't let the look fool you, like I said, because they're a little bit odd looking, but they are absolutely my second favorite for deep jigging for sure. They I think what I use like the 3/4 ounce of that. I believe it's maybe like a 4-inch for deeper. Oh, and my other really big piece of important advice, and this goes for deep jigging as well as surface, but there's nights when you're getting a lot of short strikes. Fish just aren't hanging on to it. Menhaden Procure is worth its weight in gold. It really is. That is like the key to that has turned nights where the bite was bad and turned it into a night where you were actually able to land some fish. I can't say enough good things about it. I've tried some of the other scents, but the Menhaden just works the best. I got like the big economy size bottle, the big one.
It's interesting you say that. I had this theory about gulp,
Mhm.
that they don't taste good, but they make them think for that extra second so you can set the hook.
That's
So
absolutely
it's not like a regular
100%.
plastic. They're putting it in their mouth and they're spitting it. They're
Yeah,
grabbing it and they're thinking. And sometimes they eat it, but a lot of times they're not down in the whole thing. So
exactly.
it gives you that half a second extra to set that hook.
Exactly. That's 1,000% correct. It's
I'll
again,
tell you one
it's
that I used today. It's called Dr. Juice.
Dr. Juice, huh?
Yeah, from Salt Strong.
Okay.
I was testing it out. I was fishing a flat today when I was looking for redfish, and I
Yeah.
put it on a soft plastic, a Northeast Jigs
Yeah.
soft plastic.
Which are great, by the way.
They are, and I figured I'll just throw it on there and see what happens. And I was picking up fluke on it, and I wasn't picking up any until I put the Dr. Juice on.
Okay.
So
Yeah. It makes
it's
it like
incredibly smelly though.
Yep. And it's really sticky, and you get it on your hands, and you can't hold on to your rod, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, especially the
it's so
Procure.
cool.
The Procure's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like really sticky. This Dr. Juice wasn't quite like that.
Yeah.
But I only tried it the one time. I will tell you that it worked well. And to Andrew's comment in the chat, be careful with that. Don't spill it. It's extremely slippery. I actually was putting it on over a scupper hole. So anything that did not stay on, because it's not thick like the Procure. It's not
Oh,
like that
really?
gel. So it kind
Okay.
of ran off. So it was running down the scupper hole because I didn't want it all over the kayak.
Yeah.
So
Oh no. Oh yeah. it all makes a mess. But if it's like liquid like that, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be done over the side.
It worked though, but I'm a big fan of using Procures. The flounder, what is it, flounder pounder or something?
Yes, there's flounder
That
pound.
works. That works well. The shrimp I use anytime I'm doing anything around a heavy structure. So for tog, I'll actually throw it on Ed's jigs,
Yeah,
just so it gives a little extra. So if they get the jig in their mouth, they're not spitting it right away. They're still
yeah,
tasting something. And cheddar oil. Well, that's mainly for weak fish for me, but
yeah. Cheddar oil is amazing, and you know what? I love. I like. It sounds weird, but I love the smell of it. Like there's something about the smell of cheddar oil. I used to soak my clams in it. Used to put it on everything.
And you like that plug bait stuff. Oof.
Yeah.
well, there's certain, well, see, for me, there's certain things like the smell of low tide to me is the best in the world.
It is.
I love
Yep.
that smell.
Me
And
too.
a lot of people are like, oh, it's terrible. Like, no, that
like
is
heaven.
summer. That's summer
Yep.
to me.
I
So,
totally agree.
yeah.
Oh man, that just brings me peace in my soul. That smell, it really does.
Yeah. Every time I go down to the shore, and again, I'm in Pennsylvania, so every time I go down, as soon as I approach anything that has salt water near it, whether I'm on 55 and I start getting to the southern reaches of it and the salt water and the marshes are coming up, I always roll down the window and take a deep breath and hope it's low tide.
Yeah.
You know, I just love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, totally agree, for sure.
You guys are weird.
But the other and I'm trying to, like, I wrote down a bunch of things, and I kind of, that all went out the window, but
yeah, this whole thing is just three guys talking, and whatever comes up comes up.
I love it. I'm looking down. I can't even believe an hour and 22 minutes.
I know.
It hasn't felt like that at all. But like, especially you had brought up weak fish, but
Yeah.
Another piece of advice that for anglers out there is, don't be afraid to live line. It's not cheating. Some people are artificial or nothing. I am not an artificial purist by any stretch of the imagination. Get yourself like decent enough to where you can throw a cast net, get yourself peanut bunker. I know in my area, like the key to me, a lot of times when I'm targeting weak fish is to live line. I mean, I've had nights where they wouldn't touch an artificial note. You throw everything in your box at them and they won't touch them.
Yeah.
And one peanut bunker will change your entire evening. But peanuts for bass and weekies, but that's definitely one of my favorite things for weekies. And another thing, people I guess don't really know this, but tiny snapper blues for weekies and flounder are really, really great.
If you can get the really small ones,
if you can find them, and you can keep them alive, where you get into a school of them, you know, just the little guys, they work pretty incredible.
and you can catch them on a sabiki rig.
Yeah.
So we used to catch them at the dock on a sabiki rig, and you can get like 3 of them, and they're so little they usually won't bite their way off of it. So you take one off and you use it, and then, you know, another 1 or 2 will get off. But usually, you know, with 9 hooks on there, you usually can use that thing all night.
Able to find something. Yeah. Spot, you know.
Love spot. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Spot is great. They're expensive, yes, but I'll say this. I can usually turn one spot into one fish, whether it's flounder, whether it's bass. But yeah, the importance of live bait. So I cannot be understated. And like I said, it's not cheating. It's
not at all.
Sometimes, especially at certain times of the year, you have to give them what they want to eat, not what you want to feed them. Like, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice. Sometimes you you just have to do that, and you'll be glad you did. Eels, same thing, same way. I will say this though, you have a very finite window when it comes to live lining um, of when it's actually effective. I'm not talking about out front. I'm talking strictly when it comes to back bay.
Right.
You have a very specific window where you can usually get fish to eat it, and that window, once it closes, it's it's kind of closed, and you have to figure out a different approach. But um, yeah, definitely get yourself some type of live well, and if you can swing it on a kayak, definitely always bring some sort of live bait with you. I don't leave my dock without some sort of live bait, whether it's eels, whether it's spot, whether I pick up peanuts. Always have something in the live well.
Yeah, no, on the kayak, I actually have, I carry around at least 2 Sabiki rigs. I haven't used them a ton this year, but
Yeah.
for those that aren't aware, if you just go over some hard structure or find, you see oyster beds, if you can read your depth finder correctly, you'll be able to see the hard structure. You're usually going to have spot there.
Mhm.
So you drop a Sabiki rig, as long as it's, it's not incredibly deep. You want something, for me, ideally 20 feet or less,
Yeah.
15 is probably ideal. You
Yeah.
drop it down there, you're going to pick up on 2 of the hooks, you're going to get small sea bass, and on 1 of the hooks, you're going to get a spot.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that works awesome. It's a great way
Definitely.
to do it.
Even around docks and in
Oh yeah,
marinas, the pilings that go down, you can usually find them.
they're all
But
around the marshes though. I mean, they're back there. Any
yeah,
time that I've also found that if you have a marsh and you have a little sandy area, that like a little, almost like a beach back in there, they'll be sitting right there, right where it
yeah,
drops off of
that's
the sand.
interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've always done well in those spots. I do want to mention one comment that was made in there, that my new cologne is Ode to Tide, because I like the low tide smell. I have to mention this.
There you
Ed, you would
go.
have laughed. So when I was on my little scouting mission today, I launched all the way in the back, real deep, and I had to go over a sod bank to launch. Now, it wasn't a big drop off after. I mean, where I was going, it was only 2.5 feet of water. So
Yeah,
when I was pulling that damn kayak out, my feet went out from under me, and it's like ice. So not only did they go out from under me, but I went literally flat on my back
oh,
in like a second in the middle of the sod bank muck.
that is the
And
I
I'm
worst.
two
should
and a
have
half hours from
stayed.
home.
I've
Oh,
had it happen before too, but that flat on your back like that couldn't be like the
I'm
absolute
standing
worst.
there. I'm standing there, and Ed knows there were people around. I'm standing there at my truck. I'm like, I got to drive my truck, back it up to get the kayak. And I was like, oh well. I'm like, shirt off, pants off. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm standing there in my boxers, just changing in the middle of the street, because I was like, I am not getting this in my truck.
yeah,
Now I say that, but in the plastic bag are all the clothes I took off. He didn't bring them inside yet, but oh my god, it was terrible. It was
uh,
and I looked around like, did anyone see? And I'm like, of course they saw.
of
Everyone
course.
was watching the dude with the kayak.
Yeah.
Oh, it
I
was
should have
terrible.
stayed.
No matter what, I mean, I don't care how good you are at fishing. Dumb crap happens
Oh
when
yeah,
you're fishing all the time. Happens to me, happens to everybody. Like,
a hook in the hand.
a lot of people get like a big head, like, look at that egg hole over there, or look at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But truth of the matter is, I can look like an absolute like Guggen myself on any given point in time.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. So
I have a habit of doing that. I after 20 plus years of kayak fishing, I capsized 2 years ago, which hadn't happened, unless it was on purpose until then.
yeah,
I, flat on my back on the sod today. You should have seen. Oh my god, my dog was trying to lick it off my leg when I got home. It was all dried all over the place. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah,
Good old,
She thought it was awesome.
the old Bill
yeah,
Dance,
well, sure.
Bill Dance blooper reels are the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I used to back when I did a lot of photography with my iPhone, and it just reminds me of another little nugget of advice. But live photo always on the iPhones they have live photo, so it captures a very short video with every picture.
Right.
Well, you would be surprised the amazing things and bloopers. I used to put together an entire blooper reel just from what live photo would capture. You can make it, you can turn it into a video, and I would make entire videos of it. Um, but that reminds me, just real quick, while I'm thinking of it, for guys that like to take photos and you only have your phone and you have an iPhone, always turn that live photo on, because it will. You'd be surprised how many times that will save a shot for you. Or one where you're blinking or the fish wiggles, you can usually select a scene from that
Yeah.
and make a decent picture out of something that may have been caught at the wrong time, you know? So,
That's some
um,
good advice. That's
yeah,
I can't tell you. I mean, the only thing that gives me any Instagram pictures is the fact that I take almost 100% of my pictures off of my video.
yeah,
Right.
you
So I
can,
shoot it and I actually, I shouldn't do this. I mean, I've got a terabyte of storage on my laptop and it gets filled every week and I have to offload it because I shoot 60 frames per second just because of that reason, because
yeah.
you'll only get, in the hour of video, you'll only get maybe 5 frames that are worth anything.
I
That's
totally
it.
agree. Um, and you bring up a good point. So my folder of pictures from last year, say there's a little over 3,000 shots that I took last year for 2021, and of that, I will get a fraction of shots that actually turn out. I may get, of the 3,060 like really good ones that you can work with. But that is a really good way to get pictures is pulling them.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I have. It's the only way I can do it.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
great way to
I
do it.
don't take my cell phone out to do that kind of
I
stuff,
don't blame you.
Like,
I shot on my cell phone for years, and I still do with some things because it's just easier than setting up the camera. But you can listen. You can pull off some really good shots with an iPhone. You really
yeah.
can. Um, Actually, the first fisherman mag that I got when I was on the cover, that was an iPhone 10 shot, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so you can really take some good pictures with an iPhone. It's just getting in at nighttime, getting your lighting right. But
So I won't take mine out anymore because I have a phone sitting down in the back channel of Brigantine right now.
yeah,
So it
got two
becomes a
of
very
them.
expensive night. Yeah, it becomes a very expensive night, and it's so easy to drop in a kayak. Those are the stupid things that I do. I
Yeah,
had it on my lap. I'm night fishing for striped bass, and then I hooked up a fish, and I leaned over to lip it, and as I leaned over, it fell out of my lap, hit the side, and as soon as it hits the water, the screen turns on, and I just see it just kind of floating down, just going
yeah.
back and forth. And I look at the depth finder, and I'm thinking, okay, how deep is this? And I look, it's 18 feet. I know exactly where it fell, but it was 18 feet deep in the middle of the
Yeah,
night. It's
dude, the
probably,
currents swept that.
oh yeah,
It's yeah. It like I lost two phones last year. So yeah, one shark fishing, and it just it happens. My wallet
it's like
fell out.
$800 a pop too,
Oh,
800 to a
it
thousand
sucks.
dollars.
It's horrible. Not to mention the lost pictures. You know what I mean? Like I
Yes.
backed mine up, but yeah, at the time, like I didn't want to pay that extra $9.99 a month for the Google, upgrade to the 2 terabytes or whatever, and I like regretted it. You know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. All right. So we are up to an hour and a half now. Is there
yeah.
any last thing that you want to share? Well, I'm not going to let you go without telling everyone exactly where to find you, how to get in touch with you for a
Yeah.
charter or anything like that.
So the biggest thing is Instagram for me. So I don't keep up with Facebook as much as I should, except for posting to like the business account. But it's real easy. My name should be up on the screen there. It's Scotty Sevins. For Instagram, for Facebook, it's Sevins Fishing, and just remember that Sevins Sevins, Sevins Fishing. I really try to keep my name across the board on all platforms. TikTok is Scotty Sevins, easy to find. YouTube, Scotty Sevins, and just look. I think there's two Scotties. I have two accounts on there. Just look for the picture that you used for the thumbnail for this video.
Yep.
So, but yeah, like I said, I started guiding a few years ago, and so if you guys are looking to fish with me, just hit me up. We'll put something together.
Well, I'm going to hit you up because I do want to get out
Awesome.
there fishing
Yeah,
with
me
you.
too.
Yeah, that would be great, guys.
And how many people can you take on each charter? What do you
So
prefer?
here's the thing. I typically two. That is recommended. I'm usually that's what I go with. If there's a third guy that wants to go, like we can work something out with that. I've had situations where four guys are there, but you know the kind of fishing we do. There's a lot going on, so two is recommended. I usually don't like to go over that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I do boat cruises for families and sunset cruises and that sort of thing too. But when it comes to fishing, I mean there's a lot going on, so just keeping it to two is the best thing.
Well, Ed and I will go in for a charter, and John can get the sunset cruise with you.
Awesome.
He's not on tonight, but we'll let him do the sunset
He's not even
cruise.
here to defend himself.
I know.
You know what's funny, man? And I'm not afraid to say this, but I enjoy cruising as much as I do fishing. You know, it's a
I
lot
used
less
to-
stress involved, but I really do enjoy cruising.
I have to admit, I used to take my boat out at sunset all the time, and it was just to get out there, hit the throttle up in the back channels, and just go, and then just go real slow through some of the creeks, and then just I absolutely enjoy it. Definitely.
Yeah, agree. I'm telling you, I learned my area because of doing sunset cruises. That's how I learned my area. So it's too multi-purpose, I guess. But yeah, that's sort of how I started Salt Marsh Sunday. I was always out scouting on Sunday nights. That just became my thing, and I just said, like, oh, why don't I start putting it out there? I had a lot of people that weren't able to get out and fish as much, and just was nice. It was a nice way to kind of keep them included.
Yeah, I love the entire concept. So everybody go out, check out the Instagram, check out the YouTube. Trust me, you want to check out the YouTube. You're going to want to subscribe and watch that. It's definitely worth your time. And I know a lot of the people that watch this, it's right up your alley. So you're going to want to go out and
Thank you. Yeah, my goal is to really get the YouTube going. There's just a couple shorts and some older videos on there, but that is my goal to really build my YouTube. Instagram is mainly where it all happens for me.
Well, you're going to do a collab with Joe. I mean, he's got a channel. You do a collab with Joe, it's going to help, right? Because he's got all those subscribers and everything.
Absolutely. And he's like a really good video editor. See, that's the thing. Like I'm terrible at editing. I'm very good with pictures, but I can't edit video to save my life. And he's very good at it.
He is good. Yeah.
You can learn a lot from him.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, thank you for coming on again.
Guys, I really enjoyed this. I can't even believe an hour and 40 minutes went by. We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah,
I would do this again. And so, the whole concept is just a bunch of guys talking fishing, or guys and gals. When Philly Fishing Girl or Heaven and Elle are on, it's just talking fishing, right? And
Yep.
everybody here and everybody in the chat and everyone watching the replays and listening to the podcast later literally wants to do this. It's just we don't have a big enough Zoom room to do it. You know, so we're doing it, and people are listening in, and they're having their own conversations in the chat, and that's what's awesome about it. So thank you so much for coming on. So next week we do have, just for everybody that's listening, we do have Stephanos from Sport Fishing Outlet coming on, and he is going to talk about nighttime saltwater fishing. It is turned into one of his specialties because he owns a tackle shop and he works in his tackle shop. He is there every single day, and there's nothing greater than going in there and talking to him, and he'll talk to you the entire time that you're there. But he's also trying to get ready to run out the door and get down to Cape May County or to the Raritan or something right after work, because he's trying to pack stuff up and he's trying to talk to everybody in the store. So he got really good at fishing when the shop is closed, which is at night. So he's going to come on and talk about it. He's had some awesome results, striped bass, fluke, everything. I mean, that guy, he can catch anything, freshwater, saltwater. He's one of those fishy dudes.
He's the real deal.
Yes, so he's going to be on. So everybody, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate the reviews that you've all done on the podcast. So until next week, until next episode, get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.